Whether we are burning fat or storing fat is a function of blood sugar. Our blood sugar can be too high because we've eaten too much, because we sat down at the restaurant and started with the bread basket, because we've chosen higher glycemic foods that are more likely to spike our blood sugar, right? When we eat those things, it spikes our blood sugar. Our body can't use all of the fuel and the insulin that were produced. It stores that extra as fat.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries.
Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, always here with you every week. We have lots of new listeners these days, so if you're newer to our crew, welcome, welcome. We love having you here. And joining me today is one of you, our listener, our podcast member, Cindy. Cindy, welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be with you today.
Yeah, so it's been a minute since the last time you were on this side of the microphone.
Oh, yes. In December of 22, I was a guest. We did the rundown of our top 10.
Yes, I love that one every year. That's a personal favorite episode. So today is also a good one for you to join me. This is one of those episodes where I have a gut feeling about what we need to talk about. And then I hear from a couple of you and it confirms what was in my head. So that is the inspiration for today's episode. Now, Cindy, I know you mentioned this when we had your podcast member one-on-one session. And I mentioned this episode and you were like, oh, I need that.
You always know what we need, Jen. We don't even know what we need. You do.
Right. It's that gut instinct. And then I also heard from others of you and on social media. And the overarching comment that was coming to me is I'm overwhelmed. I don't really know where to start. So this is it. Here you go. This is your start. We're going to go through some of the foundations, some tips and tricks and tools for getting the ball rolling and help you put the blinders on to all the wellness hoopla that's out there, right? Social media and all the places. And we're going to work on getting into momentum. Sound good?
That sounds great.
All right. So before we get too deep into it, we're going to tell our members what you're getting this week. So Cindy and all of our members, your recipe this week is for skillet chicken fajitas.
Ooh,
it sounds
already
good, doesn't it? I know. So you get the taste of takeout right in your own kitchen. You could use this recipe and change it up to use butter lettuce to make lettuce wraps. You could put it over rice or a baked potato. You could take this sort of skillet chicken fajitas and change it up a bunch of different ways. So this recipe might just become the next staple of your weekly routine. And of course, since it's the last month of the quarter and the last week of that month, it is your last chance to book your Q1 of 2023 live session. So we're doing it as a one-on-one, just you and me, 30 minutes. I can't wait to chat with you. So I know this is the end of March. There are times available in April. You just got to book it this week. Cool?
Sounds great.
All right, Cindy, I'm putting you on the spot for a hot second. Share with everybody why you became a member or your favorite thing about the membership.
Actually, I became a member the first time I listened to you. You were a guest on somebody else's podcast. And I was like, oh, I'll check her out. She seems fun. So I did. And it was the heart to heart.
It takes
And
heart.
I was like, oh, she knows her stuff. I left your podcast, logged in and became a member. I think I've earned my share and my payback just in the one-on-ones with you. That 30 minutes is so valuable and it goes way too fast. I think really we could do an hour and we'd be like, oh, wait, we're done? So just the one-on-ones, the recipes. Truly, I rewrite recipes that I have that have been staples, that now that I've learned so much and learned other things that I've tweaked, and even your recipes. We're doing last week's recipe for the skillet chicken, like the breaded chicken, tonight. So we'll see.
Awesome. Oh, I love it. Well, friends, if you want to be a member like Cindy and so many others, go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. It's $10 a month. You get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions. It is a total deal because when you take advantage of the full offerings, you're saving far more than that $10 cost, right? Like Cindy said, with this one-on-one, it's your money back for the year in just this 1 month. So I say it every time, it is a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, your membership supports this podcast and this community so that we can continue to do this with you every week because it's my favorite thing. All right, so remember, you are going to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link in the show notes because that's easier. Once you're there, you click support now, enter your email and payment method, click subscribe, and you're done. You'll get this week's recipe for the skillet chicken fajitas and the last chance for your quarterly live session. All right, Cindy, wellness overwhelm and sort of where to start. When I mentioned this to you, what was going through your head? Like, what did you start thinking about with that?
That's exactly, I think, how so many of us feel all the time. I think social media, magazines, everything we look at now is like, you should do this and you should do that. And sometimes when you really want to get started, you're bombarded with so much. You don't even know where to start to make a small step to being healthy because everybody's got their own opinion, what is best for you.
Yeah.
And you just you don't know. You do feel overwhelmed. Like, where do I start? What's the right place to start?
And then I think the outcome of that is starting with nothing, right? We just don't start because it feels like too much.
It is. It's an overwhelm.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think part of what overwhelms us is like all of the details. So, for example, somebody pitched me recently to be a guest on the show, and their thing was this, like, I don't have any other way to describe it other than like high-tech water, like very fancy water. And I admittedly was like, I don't know if I can do this because I think it gets us into that, like, wait, I got to do what now? Right.
Exactly.
Like I'm really sensitive to contributing to that overwhelm. But so I'm having a call with their founder and chief science guy to see if we can, get some more information. But, I think there's that kind of stuff. I think there's gut health stuff where everybody's talking about gut health. And then you're like, well, is that supposed to work? Is that where I'm supposed to start? And then there's all the keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, intuitive eating, like all of the things that we hear about. Oh, lymphatic drainage is a big one that keeps coming up. And then this workout and that one and Ozempic and all of the things. I can appreciate that it feels like I don't even know where to start or which way is up.
Exactly. There's so much out there. And I think sadly, so much of us don't realize that we didn't get to the spot overnight, but we always want an overnight cure for what ails us. Trust me, it's all those Oreos that you ate in the middle of the night for months and months and months that got you here. So drinking a green shake, is it really going to save you all those calories? And in a week, are you going to lose all the weight you need to?
Right. Well, and that brings us to even what ends up happening after we do something. We go, where are the results, right? So let's take it one step at a time. So we'll start with some foundational stuff, and then we'll get into also some of the exercise things and some of the challenges that are likely to show up. So one of the things that I also want everybody to know is that we have to start wherever we are, which sounds a little elusive, right? Like when people answer a question with a question, or they define a word by using the word, and you're like, well, that wasn't helpful, right?
Wait, yeah, you didn't help me at all. What?
Right. So by that, what I mean is we have to look at what's happening, look at what our priorities are. How are we feeling now? How do we want to feel? And then think about how to get there, right? One of the things that I also want everybody to know is that sometimes the more symptoms we have, the more things that are bothering us, the simpler the solution. Because when it's everywhere, small things are likely to impact everything anyway, right? Oftentimes it's caused by something very systemic, if that makes sense.
It does. I'm
Yeah.
shaking my head because I think that's where I started so many years ago. There was so much going on. I didn't know where to start, what to do. So instead of thinking of all the things I had to do, I think you and I spoke and you're like, pick one thing. What do you think that one thing is that's going to change and get you started?
Exactly. Exactly. Because one thing, when we do it, creates a bit more belief in ourselves that we can do it. And that leads us to the next thing.
Exactly. I think when we spoke in December, like I would listen to your podcast and I would find one thing that I could use that week to help me. I didn't try all of the options. I found one thing in each episode and said, this I can do. And I committed to doing those things. And those truly do help with your lifestyle changes.
And that brings up a really interesting point that when I work with a client, is one of the things that we do is that we build week to week. So we have a topic for the week. We talk about this one thing. And then the next week, we're adding on to that. I think so often when we tackle this on our own, or we go at it from the perspective of everything we've heard a million times, right? We try to do all the things at the same time in the same day, going from 0 to 1,000,000 miles per hour. And then we go, well, this is really hard. I'm out, right? We can't do all of that stuff. And then we throw our hands in the air.
Right. And then we give up again and we have to start over again instead of doing those simple, small things.
So here are a couple options of some things, right? I say it all the time. Protein and fiber at every meal. You say it because you know it.
Makes losing fat no big deal.
Yeah, removing fat, exactly. So clean, lean protein, whatever you want that to be. Fiber is vegetables and sometimes fruit. If we focus on that every single time we eat, because the only difference between a meal and a snack is how much we have at a time, and therefore how long it'll last us, we're good. So if every time you eat, you're looking for protein and vegetables, hands down, you are winning. You are winning. And maybe every time you eat feels like a lot. So let's start with breakfast.
Oh, breakfast. And it's so easy to grab a protein bar, have a protein shake. But how long does that last?
Right.
It doesn't. You have to eat something substantial.
Yep. And we did a whole episode on breakfast, right? So if you want to focus on breakfast, you can go back to that episode and dig in a little bit. If that feels overwhelming, protein and fiber for our breakfast. We want that breakfast within like an hour to 90 minutes of waking up. Check the box, right?
One simple thing.
I'm a big fan of the breakfast salad. I had it today, actually. So I make some eggs and I keep the yolk runny. And then I put it over a salad. It makes like a creamy salad dressing. And the salad can be any greens and vegetables that you have in your house, like doesn't really matter. Could be an omelet. I know time is often tight in the morning, so you can do veggie egg cups, right? Using a muffin tin. You've made those before, right?
That's a staple in our home now. Like Sunday, I prepare it all. Monday, I put them in the little muffin tins and off we go. So we have them for the week. My husband will grab 2, I grab 2. And even if I don't eat both for breakfast, I have one for lunch or a snack.
Yep. Awesome. So breakfast to be protein and fiber, doesn't have to be overwhelming. We can still figure out how to keep it fast, simple, efficient, and check those nutrition boxes to start our day. Because what we have for breakfast sets the tone for what's happening with our blood sugar all day long. So that brings us to blood sugar. And maybe we should have this conversation because whether we are burning fat or storing fat is a function of blood sugar. Our blood sugar can be too high because we've eaten too much, because we sat down at the restaurant and started with the bread basket, because we've chosen higher glycemic foods, foods that are more likely to spike our blood sugar, right? When we eat those things, it spikes our blood sugar. Our body can't use all of the fuel and the insulin that were produced. It stores that extra as fat. In the other extreme, where our blood sugar is too low, so our blood sugar could be too low because we didn't eat enough, or because we didn't eat at all, or we've eaten something high glycemic, it spikes our blood sugar and then it drops, right? Low blood sugar, not only does it make us crave sugar, but it also creates a situation where our body thinks it's a time of famine and it's going to store what you eat next because it's trying to survive. When our blood sugar is too high and when our blood sugar is too low, we're storing fat. The objective is to eat quality food, protein, fiber, quality fat, at a frequency that keeps our blood sugar in this like middle zone, right? Where we're never storing fat. I always say weight management isn't magic, it's science. But the magical piece of it is that when we're consistent, keeping our blood sugar in that middle zone, where we're never adding to our fat stores, our body will release the fat stores that it's been holding on to because it realizes it doesn't need them.
Exactly.
You're like, what she said, right?
Yes, exactly that. And I think too, you have to find out what is best for you, because I think we've talked before, I eat early afternoon. And if I don't have my mid-afternoon snack, by the time I get home, I'm so hungry that I feel like I need to eat everything. And then you're not careful about what you're eating. You're just grabbing the quickest thing to help that hunger that you think you have.
Yeah. So that brings up a frequency of fuel, right? So we talked about the quality of what we're having, right? Frequency and quantity are connected because theoretically, if we have more, it would last us a bit longer, right? So a meal for a woman is about 4 to 6 ounces of protein. Use your hand, whole hand. Don't go crazy. Don't go carrying, measuring cups and a food scale in your handbag. Like, I'm not into that, right? Not necessary. Think about your whole hand of protein for a meal and a few handfuls of vegetables for your meal. A meal is going to last us probably like 4 to 5.5, maybe 6 hours or so. Oh, by the way, for men at a meal, protein is 6 to 8 ounces. Again, their whole hand, because your hand is theoretically proportionate to the size of your body. Okay. Then snacks are 2 to 3 ounces of protein. So thinking the palm of your hand, and they will last us about 1 to 2 hours. That's where the one was in my head. It'll last us 1 to 2 hours, again, depending on what we have with it or how much we have.
So that handful of walnuts or almonds are a great snack. And I find that gets me through to, dinner prep and getting ready for my last meal of the day.
Those nuts are going to give us quality fat, a little bit of protein, maybe like an ounce of protein or so, right? Quality fat. And if we added some berries to that to get some of the fiber, we're going to feel really good. I have to tell you, by the way, like raspberries or blueberries with walnuts, actually any berry with walnuts, I just really like walnuts.
There's nothing wrong with a good walnut.
Right? So we can think about building our meals, building our snacks, and planning throughout the day, right? So if we want breakfast within like an hour to 90 minutes of waking up, in an ideal world, we're finishing food like a couple hours before bed. And then between those times, we're eating based on that sort of frequency that's connected to what we're having, when we're having it, right? That quantity. So if you know that your next chance to eat something, like maybe you have a big meeting and then, our next chance to eat something is further down the line, we might want to eat a bigger snack or a bigger thing, a bigger meal, and plan for that snack so that when it comes time for that snack and our blood sugar is lower, we're extra hungry, it's already planned. It's easier, as you said, to make the healthful choice there.
I think that's a great idea. And I do like to do my Sunday food prep. So I do buy like those little snack bags and I will fill up walnuts, almonds, and I will take like a small container of like raspberries or blueberries, whatever's in season. And I keep those at work so that I have them and I'm not scouring the lounge and looking, oh, look at all the treats. It's easier for me to just, nope, I have my snack. This is what I'm going to eat. And it takes away that temptation to go scavenging for other things.
Yeah, I love that. I used to use the phrase, that's not my food. Whether it was roommates' food in the kitchen or other people's food at work or even like the public food at work, that was not my food.
Yes, I did not prepare that. That is not for me.
Yep. So let's also think about on a daily basis what to track and how to track it. So there are a lot of apps out there. We're going to work on an episode to talk about some of those apps. But with all the apps that are out there, it doesn't matter. The point is to find what works for you. If the app is confusing or the app feels cumbersome or the app is highlighting things that you're not focused on, like calories, ignore it, right?
Exactly.
You don't have to do it. Use a Post-it. Use a piece of paper. Use the Notes app in your phone. Use photos just on your phone. Just take a picture of your plate. Whatever is going to work for you and make it simple. And then what we're looking for on a daily basis, right? Similar to the things that we just talked about, the protein and fiber at every meal, the frequency of our meals. We can also track our sleep, right? Every day we're shooting to 8 to 12 servings of vegetables. So a serving of vegetables is about a handful, right? Greens, it might be like 2 handfuls is a serving. 8 to 12 servings of vegetables. 1 to 2 servings of fruit. Serving of fruit is like a normal size piece of fruit, like not the apple the size of your head, not the banana that could be used as a yardstick, right? Average size piece of fruit. Fits in your hand kind of size piece of fruit, right? Quality fat. Nuts, olive oil, avocado oil, right? 2 to 3 servings a day. Servings about a tablespoon. Your nuts, by the way, your serving of nuts is a small handful, as Cindy just said, right? Serving of avocado is half of the avocado.
And that makes a great salad dressing as well. If you're not a fan of just the texture of an avocado, mashing it up, adding a little bit of Greek yogurt to it makes a really good dressing.
Yum. I'm coming to your house to eat. Okay. So our water, just start tracking it. See how much you're getting with all of it, right? I'm giving these benchmarks, but as we start, it's just about the observation of what am I doing right now, right? Getting a sense of where we're at. And then from there, we can go deeper and say, oh, I might want to put some extra effort into my water. Oh, I might want to put some extra effort into the veggies, right? Things like that. If you don't want dairy, you don't have to have dairy, right? Grains are one where, depending on your level of commitment, you might choose to eliminate grains for a period of time, especially if you have some bloating stuff and things like that. It can help tremendously. So we talked about sort of the daily things, right, that we're looking at. Most people then weigh in weekly. I'm going to advise instead that you weigh in monthly. And when we weigh in, we're taking all of our measurements. So that's the scale, the body fat, and all the tape measure measurements. So monthly, we're looking at that data. And then quarterly, we're taking photos, right? So if it feels overwhelming, any of these things, like we said before, pick one thing and hopefully understanding this frequency of the monthly weigh-in and measurements, the quarterly photos takes a few things off your plate. And if you don't want to forget, throw it in your calendar for 3 months from now to take photos. Let it remind you.
And I think that's one of the things. Sometimes we think, oh, this is the next best plan. And we get so caught up in the tracking of our food. And how many macros, how many micros have I eaten? Did I drink enough water? We get caught up in the details that it's not helping us to stick to those things. You know, I think you did a nutrition nugget on what's your daily barometer. You know when you have not had enough water. Your skin tells you that immediately. When you wake up and you're feeling kind of, ooh, you know, have an extra cup of water. You know that, you feel that. Your stomach tells you those things. Your pants are going to tell you those things. Use that daily barometer. You don't get on that scale every time. It'll make you cry.
Yeah. And we could talk about that too, But putting it into perspective of really what we're focusing on in a day, I think allows us to find the consistency. Because I say it all the time, consistency is king or queen. We should say queen, right? But really, that's the goal. We're looking for the consistency because it's not one day that gets us to where we want to be. Like you were saying before, we got here over time. We're not going to get to the next place instantly, but really looking for what we do consistently. What are the habits that repeat? That's what's going to determine our health outcomes and what happens next and all of those results, right?
Exactly. Yes. I'm not a big water fan. And I started just adding 2 more cups a day. And then it becomes, this is what I do. I drink water.
Yeah. That's the
This is
bullseye
who I am.
change.
Yes, it's that small change.
Yes. So by the way, I'm total digression. That is the story you just told is the bullseye of change. So for our 200th episode, everybody, I want to share all of your success stories. So check my social media, my emails, make sure you're on the list for the emails. I'm going to give you that phone number to call and you can tell us something you learned from an episode, how you implemented it, what happened, because Cindy, that is exactly what we're talking about, right? It's the behavior that gets repeated becomes a habit, which creates the identity.
Exactly.
Awesome. Oh, I love it. Okay. This just made my day. So thank you. And the piece about all of this, finding that consistency, getting to the point where it becomes the identity might require some accountability. We're human. You know what we're not great at? Being accountable to ourselves. We are much better at being accountable to other people.
Very much so. That's why always having a buddy or having somebody who's on your team makes you accountable to both of you, not just yourself, but you are always more afraid to let somebody else down than you would be yourself.
Yeah, because nobody knows when it's just you, right?
Right.
Right. But truthfully, a buddy, a coach, accountability. And I will tell you, if your coach or the person you're working with makes you feel embarrassed or ashamed or whatever, they are the wrong person for you. That's okay. They're not a bad person. They're just the wrong person for you, right? 9 times out of 10, I am pointing out everything my clients are doing because they come to me with everything they think they're not doing.
And that again, I think goes back to the self-talk and how we treat ourselves, how we get to that mindset where it has to be all or nothing. Oh, I had that shamrock cookie yesterday. I'm such a failure. But really, I was celebrating with friends and family. Am I going to have a shamrock cookie today? No. That was that balance that you have to find. And I think that's the trick, finding the balance.
And your balance looks different than somebody else's balance. Like your body, right? You don't need me to sit here and tell you to eat a vegetable. You know that, right? That's
Exactly.
You're here enough. You know that. So going back to what we said before, right? We start here. We pick one thing. We choose the one thing. We focus on consistency, not beating ourselves up, right? Being kind. And like you said, I think that mindset piece of it, of choosing the one thing and doing that one thing, is part of how we create the momentum and the belief in ourselves that we can do the next thing. And you have this episode and this podcast and me, right? We can guide you and support you. You can start here. And then based on your observations, maybe after a week, maybe after 2 weeks, you take a look at that and go, should I focus on some sleep, my water, my quality fats, right? Is it my morning routine that seems to be like pretty good and it's the evening part that's more of a challenge? That's when maybe we look at and go, okay, let me see what I can do to focus on my gut for a second. But I think we're often, going back to that overwhelm, I think we're often pushed to focus on some of these hyper local things, which while gut health, I can hear all the gut health people coming at me right now. So like, don't come at me, just hang out for a second, right? Yes, gut health impacts everything, but it can feel incredibly overwhelming and daunting to focus on gut health when what we're eating for breakfast is cereal or oatmeal or a bagel or a muffin, and it's spiking our blood sugar.
But if we're doing the right things, that gut health eventually comes around.
Correct. Exactly. And there are little things we could do to maybe, take a step further, increase our commitment to one piece of things or a couple pieces of things, depending on what our next set of goals are. Right?
Exactly.
All right. So from here, I want to talk about the fitness piece and then address a lot of the challenges that tend to arise pretty quickly. All right. First, though, a quick message from our partner for this episode. Good?
Good.
Big thanks to The Savvy Elephant for supporting Salad with a Side of Fries in honor of Earth Month, helping you create a happy, healthy home. So The Savvy Elephant helps you create a healthy, happy home by guiding you towards natural, organic, and handcrafted home furnishings with exceptional quality others will notice. Home furnishings are filled with chemicals that can affect your sleep, allergies, mood, and overall health. Created and curated by interior designers who have done the research for you, The Savvy Elephant guides you to better, healthier choices by providing vetted products that will make you feel good. Take control of your home and your health. Shop The Savvy Elephant and live better. So we've talked about toxins before on Salad with a Side of Fries, and many of the goods in your home are contributing significantly to the body's toxic burden. So your mattress, the stuff that's inside your couch, they off-gas. There are chemicals and dyes added to fabrics. So with the Savvy Elephant, I love the range of options they have. You can find whatever matches your style. You can feel good, sleep easy, knowing that they are clean and contributing to your total well-being. So I have the Sonari candle. The scent I have is Fresco. I highly recommend. So I'm pretty sensitive to scents, and I really love this one. It's made of 100% organic vegan coconut wax and GMO-free soy wax. They use organic materials for the scents as well. And maybe you didn't realize that your candles are sending toxins into your home. So now you do. And with every candle, they send a donation to Breast Cancer Research Center. So be a savvy shopper. You'll get 10% off for being a Salad with a Side of Fries listener. So you go to thesavvyelephant.com. That's TheSavvyElephant.com. Use code SALAD, SALAD, at checkout for 10% off your order. So shop around, select, order, use the code SALAD, and ship to create a happier, healthier you. That's thesavvyelephant.com. Your friends will notice and the planet will thank you. All right. So Cindy, let's talk about the activity and the exercise piece of this.
Okay. The most challenging, I think, for all of us. It's not just me.
No, it's not just you at all. And it's interesting because this reminds me a lot of when everybody, like week one of the new diet, in air quotes, we get the book and we try to do all the things at the same time. This is one of those things. So for everybody, if we've never had a conversation or you've never done a discovery call with me or looked into my curriculum, we don't talk about exercise until about a month in. Because yes, it's important. If we try to do all the things at once, the likelihood of them sticking are slim to none. So we start with a couple things, right? We're going to start with one thing. The next week, we're going to add the next, right? And each week we build onto it. So we don't talk about the exercise and activity part in depth until about a month into it. So if that puts it in perspective for you of saying, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm a big fan of starting with the food for a couple reasons. Do you know what I'm going to say?
I think I do.
Guess.
Because it's easier to change those habits. And if you're focused on all of the things, you're just going to give up on everything.
Yeah. And oftentimes, right, like we said, start with breakfast. It's not changing that much of our routine to just change the what or something that happens in the beginning of our day, right? But the other thing is, let's say on an absolutely textbook week in someone's life, this imaginary person who lives textbook, how many times a week are they exercising or getting activity?
Well, I think you should be getting activity every day. But if you are not finding that balance and you're going to the gym 5 days a week and doing extensive workouts, you're going to burn out more quickly, I would think.
Well, Yeah. And we can talk about that in a second. But like with this textbook human that doesn't actually exist, maybe they're working out or getting activity of some kind every single day, right? How many times a week do we eat? So that would be, sorry, if it's every day, it's 7 times a week on that workout. How many times a week are we going to eat?
Well, at least 3 times a day. So you're figuring 21 times you're eating.
Yeah. We cannot outrun our fork. 7 will never undo 21. First of all, nothing will like that's not how the body works. But just for all the people who justify their food with the workout, I love you dearly. And that's not how this goes. You can't outrun your fork. So if we start with the fork and then we add in the exercise, in my experience with myself and my clients, it is a better formula for long-term health to do it that way. So you're exactly right. You were talking about activity every day. We need to move, right? As humans, we were designed to move. We were not designed to sit all day, right? So some kind of activity or movement every day. Walking is tremendous. You can go back to our episode with Jordan Syatt. That was the number one best exercise you can do. The answer was walking. Spoiler.
And you don't need equipment for that. You need a pair of shoes.
Exactly. And if the weather's gross, just walk around your couch, walk around your house. I don't care. Do laps, right? It doesn't require, like you said, a lot of the extra things. Now, having said that, one of the other sides of activity and exercise is building muscle. Muscle dictates metabolism. How do we build muscle? Resistance. What could be resistance? Could be our own body, right? Could be weights. Doesn't have to be. But resistance and challenge changes the body. Over time, we can increase that level of challenge. Right now, getting any kind of activity might be the challenge. Awesome. Go with it.
And I think we talked about this the other day. I think you get to a place after you've gotten your food under control that the exercise then should be your next step. Yes, you're walking. Are you getting your steps in daily? What more can you do as that next step?
Absolutely. For sure. So thinking about that next step, maybe we are getting moving. What do we need in our activity repertoire, right? Cardio, strength, and flexibility. Cardio is just using your heart as a muscle. You could actually get your heart pumping as a muscle through resistance training. So if we're looking to be more efficient with our time, right? Maybe we take fewer breaks in that resistance training, which gets our heart pumping. Maybe we alternate. So by the way, a little pro tip here from the non-fitness pro, but I do know a few things. So your quads are your thighs are your largest muscle group. If we want to get our heart pumping, if we want to get our metabolism burning, work the quads, right? They're your largest muscle group. So cardio, strength, and flexibility. Flexibility makes sure that we have balance, especially as we age. Balance is incredibly important. And that we have functional muscle. Because, the bodybuilders who can't lift their arms over their head, that doesn't help us put the paper towel away, right? We need functional muscle.
Yeah, I think we lose focus of that sometimes. Just if you think about daily activity, am I stretching? Can I tie my shoes without pain? Is it, how did my feet get that far down kind of thing? That flexibility piece comes greatly in hand.
Absolutely. And so if you're not sure on the exercise front, right, just do something. Just move. We can get caught up in it's not enough, it's not hard enough, it's not long enough. It all counts. It doesn't matter. You can go back. We did a nutrition nugget 30, 30, 30. I gave you a handful of things that each take less than 2 minutes. Do those. Start with those a couple times a day.
Those are my favorite.
Oh, good. Good. Because I think we can get bogged down in especially all the things that we see on social media of the right, in air quotes, kinds of exercise, right? The right kind of exercise is whatever you're going to do.
Exactly.
And the same thing with time of day. Whatever time of day it's going to happen is the right time of day.
Yeah, again, it's finding that what works for you.
Yeah.
If you're looking for what works for you, you're more likely to stick with it and know, I'm an early morning person. I'll get up and do it early in the morning, but don't ask me to do anything after dinner.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So I think we're good on the exercise piece. Let's talk about the challenges because I think this stuff pops up and we go, whoa. Right. So I have a handful on my list, but I'm curious to hear from you, Cindy. What are some of the challenges that you feel like pop up and you're like, we got to talk about it?
Oh, my challenges, honestly, are being honest with myself,
Mm,
being accountable to myself. I don't think that's always easy. And I think sometimes you say, oh, that's not going to hurt. But in the long run, I really do think it does.
So I call those the BLTs, the bites, licks, and tastes that can add up, right? And that's where a coach can come in and be super helpful because if we're looking at that, at least if we're throwing those BLTs on the sheet, someone else can see later of maybe there's a pattern to those that we're not seeing for ourselves. Are they getting to the point where they're potentially adding up and posing a challenge? Maybe not. Right? Maybe they're giving us an indication of a different thing that we want to tweak, but it's hard to see that on our own. And I love what you were saying about even being honest with ourselves of, like, do we put it all on the paper?
Like when you're counting those calories, when you're checking to see where am I actually, do you count that full splash of coffee creamer or do you say, no, I use just a serving size kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So accountability and a coach for that one, right? That honesty piece. I think also hunger is an interesting challenge because I feel like we've been taught that hunger is the enemy. And so many people are afraid to feel hunger.
Definitely. It's okay for your stomach to rumble. That's a good sign that your body is talking to you. Be more in tune to what your body is saying.
You're exactly right. I think there's an exercise, that's probably not the appropriate word here, but, because it's not exercise per se, but an activity to do with ourselves of what does hunger feel like? What are my personal first signs of hunger? Right? For me, I have a shorter attention span and a shorter fuse. Like I'll be working on something, a text comes in, and now I'm annoyed with the person who sent me the text. Like they don't know what I'm
Exactly.
doing. Right. Or I just don't feel like working on any of the things that are on my list. Probably need to eat something soon. Also, it's like hunger tends to live in two extremes, either being hungry is the enemy or eat less, move more, be hungry. And so I think there's a new thing to learn in there of responding to hunger. Hunger doesn't have to be an emergency, but it also helps us check in and learn to feel what our body is communicating to us.
Exactly. In all honesty, you're not going to starve if you have to wait an extra half hour to get to that meal or to have a snack. But it's a good way to say, hey, maybe I need more protein in the morning. Maybe I didn't eat that great today at lunch. I should have made a different choice. That
Yeah,
hunger
or
that comes
even
in the middle of the afternoon is really your body saying, stop and take a look at what you're doing.
Yeah. And it reminds me too, like if I get to that place and I go, okay, dinner is a half hour from now, I'm going to get there and be real hungry. I might decide to have a little something, maybe a piece of a bar or a couple nuts or something like that. Or I'm going to say to myself, when I get there, I'm going to be starving. So I'm going to decide right now what I'm ordering and not even look at that menu, right?
Because
Creating that
otherwise you're
plan.
eating all the chips. You're
Right.
eating that warm bread that comes to the table because you're that hungry.
Yeah,
You have to find
exactly.
that balance of it.
And that brings up in my head, even thinking about holidays, because the holidays are coming up, right? The holidays don't have to be a challenge, right? We just have to, same thing with that hunger in the restaurant, we just have to plan a little bit. So think about how you want to feel after, what needs to exist for you to feel that way, and choose something. Choose something to make this holiday healthier than the last one. One thing. Right. And if you're traveling for the holidays, same thing, right? What's one thing we can do? Maybe we pack our sneakers this time.
That's always a good point. I think we like to use holidays as an excuse. But I mean, even if you're just tweaking a recipe to add more vegetables, maybe the things you put out before the meal
Mm-hmm.
are vegetables
Yeah.
instead of, oh, we've got these snacks and these snacks. A vegetable platter goes a long way. And I think if that's the option, people are going to eat it.
Yeah,
If you're hungry, you're going to eat that. They're going to enjoy the carrots with the hummus while you're finishing up dinner.
exactly. Alcohol. I don't know about your holidays, but I think alcohol can come into play at holidays and frankly, just in a social life for a lot of people. And this is one where everybody makes the choices that are right for them. I will say you get healthier each day. You keep alcohol away.
Oh, I love that.
You're welcome. You get healthier each day. You keep alcohol away. If we're using the alcohol as a coping mechanism, as a crutch, there's a sign of something else going on, and we want to address that. And that's an individual choice for everybody to make. And maybe for you, that's not the one thing you want to start with. Okay, we talked about breakfast. Start with the breakfast, start with the snack, start with something else. If the alcohol isn't a piece or a piece that feels just too daunting for the moment, it's okay. You'll get there. Like we said, we're not looking to make every change in the same day. We're looking to learn something and implement it, and learn something and implement it, right? Which, by the way, is the same approach with sleep and stress, because these are also big things.
They are. I don't think we realize how much a bad night's sleep affects us and those things that are so easy for us to do to sleep better.
Yeah. So we have an episode called Sleep on It and another one called The Mess of Stress. I mean, we've done a lot in those categories, but those are two of my favorites. Also, the circadian rhythm episode, I love. And so they are things where, again, it might be the piece you start with. I'm just going to start with my bedtime. Awesome. I'm going to start with a stress reduction technique once a day. Amazing. They could also be the things that we add on later.
Again, the little things. And a consistent bedtime is huge. I realized that very quickly, that I was finding that I'm not waking up so tired if I stay to a consistent bedtime. And I mean, within that half hour,
Sure.
that makes a big difference in just how you start your day.
Yeah. And it goes toward, all of that goes toward the habits, that you were talking about before. And P.S., I also think that the idea and all the things that we've been taught about habits could also be a challenge for us, right? We've been told it's 21 days to make a habit. Well, interesting research since the pandemic, that's actually gone up because apparently people have gotten lazy, was the explanation that I heard for it. But the reality is it's going to take however long it takes. And that's going to be different for each of us. And it's going to be different depending on the thing that we're trying to make the habit around. Just keep going. Consistency is king, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think the last thing I want to say in terms of the challenges, there's a mindset challenge I hear a lot. And I consider doing a nutrition nugget on this, but it's coming to me now. So we're just going to talk about it. Is everybody who says, I'm just trying to get back. I'm almost back. Can we stop trying to get back? Like, that was then. This is now. We're not trying to go back in time, right? The set of circumstances that were then are not the circumstances that are now. So I implore you all, stop trying to get back because inherently in that, we're focused on what's not now in a negative way. Meaning when we say, I'm trying to get back to that, what our brain thinks of is everything that was then that's not now. And what we focus on expands, right? So think about, like, if you've ever been shopping for a car, right? You look at a blue car, all of a sudden you're seeing blue cars everywhere because what we focus on expands. So instead of saying, I want to get back, right? Just how do I want to feel? Choose that, keep going, and consider if what we're looking to feel is good for 10 seconds or good for a while, and not beating ourselves up and being proud of ourselves. Because sometimes the candy, the chips, the chocolate, whatever, make us feel good for 10 seconds and then we're beating ourselves up. So if we want to choose to feel good for longer than that, We could just make a different choice instead of saying, oh, I want to get back to when. Does that make sense?
It sure does. Because hopefully your entire life you're moving forward and you're progressing. Do you really want to look back at what was? You're a much better person now than you think you were 20 years ago. Your life is so much different.
Yeah.
Be positive about where you're at. I love that.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think wrapping it up, right? Yes, it can be overwhelming. There's a lot out there. Start here, right? Maybe it's just changing the social plans, right? Instead of going out to dinner, maybe it's inviting a friend over for dinner, right? If it's easier to put a coloring book at your coffee table with something to occupy your hands while you watch TV, do it, right? Think about how we can make everything easier on ourselves, right?
Those small steps.
Yep. Ask yourself, how do you want to feel after the vacation, after the holiday, after the meal, at the end of the day? How do I want to feel? Work backwards from that. Small things, get into momentum. Yes?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, we did a thing. So that brings us to our nutrition nugget.
I love those nuggets.
All right, so on Friday, we're going to talk about subtle saboteurs. So the little things that have the potential to derail us. You're not going to want to miss it. By the way, I know we've moved the nutrition nuggets to only on Friday. So make sure in whatever app you listen to, click the plus sign, whatever the button is in the app that you use, and then it will remind you on Friday. So you'll be good to go.
So instead of 1 day, we get you 2 days.
There you go. As always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or really all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck, JENN. TREPECK. Website is A Salad with a Side of Fries. Website or social media, whatever platform's easier for you, please send me a message. I want to hear your takeaways, your ideas, what questions you have. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. And of course, if you are not already a member, join our membership program by going to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. It shows your support for this podcast and this community, but most importantly, it truly supports your health. You'll get this week's recipe for the skillet chicken fajitas and the last chance for this quarter's live session, which is just you and me for 30 minutes. Cindy, thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me and letting me be part of this. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, we love having you. So you'll come back. All right. Until next week, everybody, remember, the world of wellness is a lot and can certainly feel overwhelming at times. That's when we pause, focusing on everything that you know works for you. We put the blinders on and just take the next healthful action.
Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.